No one denies that the main character in Peppa Pig is obviously Peppa, and it's her adventures that make the show so special.
Of course Teddy's a girl.
But did you know that the little piggy struggles with the rejection of her parents because they like George much more? The first proof of this sad fact happens during Peppa's own birthday party, and believe me, even though the show's production decided to make the episode light and funny, it hides a terrible secret. Early in the morning, Peppa wakes up super excited, so she runs to her parents' bedroom, who don't want to wake up yet, to start preparing for the party. In the kitchen, her family hands her a small wrapped present, which is actually a doll dress for Teddy, the protagonist's stuffed bear, meaning the gift wasn't even for Peppa. Mama Pig says that Daddy Pig practiced doing magic tricks to entertain Peppa's friends, but in reality, he didn't try at all and failed at every trick. After that, we see the cake made of banana. Maybe you like cake with this flavor, but it's obvious that many people wouldn't want a cake with such an unusual flavor for a birthday party. If you think that a disorganized little party like this doesn't prove that George is the favorite child, then you probably don't remember how grand the party was for Peppa's little brother. Get ready to find out how the pig parents treat their youngest child with much more attention and affection. Here comes another Cinewave. Now let's analyze how George's super special birthday went. Early in the morning, George wakes up and goes to call his sister, just like Peppa did on her birthday, but the changes start from there. George didn't have to wake up his parents because they were already awake and ready to give him a much bigger gift than Peppa's. Notice the difference in the size of the packages. Clearly, Peppa's gift is smaller and much less special. George got another dinosaur, one that even talks and has batteries. Do you think it's over? Wrong. Instead of a silly party with a bad magician, Daddy and Mommy Pig rented out an entire museum for George and his friends. The entire dinosaur section was reserved for the little piggy to enjoy. Meanwhile, Peppa only had the living room of her house for her party. How much do you think the museum cost? And do you think it's over? Wrong again. Miss Rabbit was hired to make a special cake shaped like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And on top of that, the pig family rented a dinosaur-shaped bounce house. And after all that, do you still think George doesn't get special treatment? There's also the possibility that the entire pig family is much prouder of George than of Peppa, and it's very hard to say something like that because no one likes to admit that someone is rejected by their whole family. The reason for this is that George can do more special things than Peppa, like when the little piggy found a giant dinosaur bone during a quick dig in Grandpa Pig's backyard. In this episode, they took the bone to the museum, and Mr. Rabbit says that it was exactly the missing piece to complete the dinosaur skeleton, meaning that George did something very special and rare for science, even though he's just a little boy, and that made the whole family proud of him. Another reason the parents seem to like George more is the fact that he often seems more mature than Peppa. One example is the episode of the town race where George wins the double race against Peppa, and the prize is a caramelized apple. Peppa fell to the ground and had to be helped. The little piggy was sad for not winning the apple, and even though George had no obligation to share his prize with his sister, that's exactly what he does. But Peppa wouldn't be the type to do that, as she's a pig who defends what's hers, as we'll see shortly. Of course, Peppa's personality is a creation of the show's animators and writers, but it seems that the people who make the animation enjoy giving George less selfish traits, which makes us think that the pig parents have a favorite child. And you, do you prefer Peppa or George? Comment #pig so we can know. Whenever a child does something wrong, it's common for parents to scold them to teach them a lesson. But when George does something wrong, that's not what Daddy and Mommy Pig do. One example of this is when Peppa is watching television and George jumps in front of her to change the channel and watch his dinosaur show. Peppa tries to control the TV because, after all, it's her time. But Daddy Pig turns off the program that's playing on the screen, saying that if they can't decide, that they won't have anything. But hold on, Daddy Pig, it was your daughter who was having fun and George interrupted her. That's not fair. Another moment in the same episode was during dinner when Peppa wanted the last carrot and George took it, ate the biggest piece, and even stuck out his tongue with the food all chewed up to tease his sister. This is an example of bad manners, but the parents did nothing. Still in the same episode, George uses his dinosaur to mess up Peppa's tea party. But again, there was no lesson on boundaries for the little piggy. The message that comes across is that even though Peppa defends what's hers, the parents don't side with their daughter.
Oh, really?
If you haven't been convinced yet that the parents love George more, then let's talk about the fact that the little piggy can't communicate properly, with dinosaur being the only word he can say right. This difficulty George has is a clue that the little piggy may have special needs, and that's why the affection and care he receives are more noticeable. And even though it may seem fair to give special treatment to a child who needs it, it's important to balance it because Peppa is also a child, and this lack of attention can make her feel jealous. One example of this is on Dinosaur Day when Grandma and Grandpa Pig threw a huge event about the little piggy's favorite animal, but they've never done anything close to that for Peppa. Did you know there's a possibility that George is an adopted piggy? This mystery is quite big in the show, and if the theory proves true, it would mean that having a male piglet was what the pig couple always wanted, but they ended up with a female instead. The first clue comes with the official Peppa Pig website, which says that Peppa is 4 years old while her brother is only 18 months old. But this isn't possible because in the episode where Mama Pig is pregnant with the second child, Peppa is much smaller than just a 3-year-old child. The theory is that Mommy Pig may have lost her second child, and that's why they adopted a little piggy, because she always wanted to have a male piglet, and because of that, the parents treat the new baby better. It's common for children not to want to share their friends with anyone, but in the episode where Peppa takes her brother to school, she seems very bothered. Could it be because she already has to share too many things with her brother? In the school episode, she tries many times to convince Daddy Pig not to let George go to school. And when the little piggy's friends seem to like the toy and the dinosaur, look at the expression Peppa makes. Clearly she's upset and even says it's just a toy. When Susie says she would love to have a little brother like George, Peppa doesn't understand and asks if she would really like that. The little piggy doesn't seem to get what people see in George, and that's because she feels that the little one is everyone's favorite, especially the parents. You know what makes us jealous? Seeing you subscribe to other channels and not ours. Please hit the notification bell and subscribe to our channel.
It was perfect.
In the sushi restaurant episode, Daddy Pig does something that's a bit unfair. In the story, the family can grab whatever they want from the food conveyor belt, and George can take whatever he wants. But pay attention to what happens when Peppa tries to take the dishes she wants. Daddy Pig sends some back to the belt as if Peppa was taking too much, but the problem is that Mommy Pig chose 17 juices, yet only Peppa had her dishes sent back. We understand that ordering something very expensive isn't good, but isn't it unfair to return only what Peppa chose? Why didn't George have to return any of his orders? Why didn't Mommy Pig have to return most of her juices? That's just mean, Daddy Pig. Another proof that George has no boundaries and that his parents pretend not to see the messes he makes happens in the toy store episode. At the end of the episode, Mrs. Rabbit presents a machine that creates dolls that are miniatures of their owners, something like a Funko Pop figure. Peppa creates a doll identical to her, but George ends up making dozens of these toys. You might not know how expensive a machine that takes a picture of you and then creates a miniature toy version is, but basically, little George ran up a huge debt that Mommy Pig will have to pay, all because his parents didn't teach him that this kind of behavior is wrong. It's not just George's parents who spoil the little piggy. Grandpa Pig shows that he has a favorite grandchild too. During the playground episode, Grandpa Pig is supposed to supervise the children playing. But instead of organizing the line normally, he lets George skip ahead of the other children unfairly just because his grandson cried. Of course, Grandpa Pig also lets Richard Rabbit skip the line, but the right thing would be to teach the kids that they need to wait just like everyone else. What Grandpa Pig was teaching George was that he could do whatever he wanted just because he was small. The scene was really awkward to watch because while the two little ones played, the other kids missed out on all the fun. There's a scene in Peppa Pig that shows how Peppa can be jealous or even angry at her younger brother. During the game, the little piggy threw the ball at his sister, and according to the rules, whoever throws the ball too hard loses the game. But when it's Peppa's turn to throw the ball, she does it so hard that she knocks over George. By the rules, George should have won, right? But no, Peppa says she won again even though she knocked over the little one. This might be a clue that the protagonist treats her younger brother unfairly to take revenge for the way her parents treat her. Still in the same episode, Chloe visits them, and when the cousin decides to help George, Peppa gets angry. The truth is that Peppa doesn't understand that her brother is still very small, and because of that, the things he does or the attention he gets are special because the younger ones are still immature. The parents don't love George more, they're just more prepared to take care of him. But you have all the attention here, so we've separated 2 more videos for you to enjoy. See you in the next one!